Hey everyone, so a couple of months ago I did a video on how to run electric metallic tubing, otherwise commonly known as EMT or conduit, through walls and using it as your raceway for installing electric. It's a very common requirement in large towns and cities across the country where they require you use conduit and metal boxes. And I really honestly didn't think that too many people would be that interested in it, but it's gotten a really good response. I've had a ton of questions about how to do different types of bends. So I thought today I would do another video being a little more specific and to the point of how to properly measure and bend and some tricks along the way of how to work with this stuff. So I want to get started. And what I did is, well, wait a minute. Hold on, hit the subscribe button and also give it a like. It helps a lot, but if anything, just subscribe to the channel because it really helps us out, keeps these videos going strong. All right, now we can get started. So I ran a couple of boxes and I just mounted them to the wall 16 inches off the ground. So the next thing that I want to do is we gotta drill some holes. So when you're using 1/2-inch conduit, the minimum bend when you bend the pipe, so say the pipe starts off here and we go all the way to here, that's going to be 6 inches. So you definitely want to drill those holes higher than 6 inches from the box. So I typically like to go like 10 or 12. So today we're going to the box is at 16, we're going to drill some holes at 26. That'll be 10 inches above the box, and that'll give us a good starting point to run our pipes through the wall. So all I use is just a regular marker, tape measure, come on over to the wall, and I mark my holes on the sides of the studs. Now, it's also important to measure your boxes. So they make different size boxes. In this case, I had some deep boxes. They're a 1900 deep box lying around. So what I like to do is just check your box before you get started and find the center of the knockout hole. And in this case, it's about 1.25 inches, 1 3/8 from the face of the box. So then I'll come over to the stud and I'll just measure 1 3/8 inches. Now this is good because it keeps the conduit far enough back that when wallboard and things are screwed to it, it's not going to touch the pipe if the proper fastener is used to screw the wallboard in. And also it makes it so that the pipe falls right into the box. It's always something to keep in mind is check those depths. So I'll go ahead and drill these holes. Hopefully you got a stronger, less dull bit than I'm working with, but it'll get the job done for today. Now we've got some holes that look like a beaver blasted through the wall, but it'll work. First thing we got to do is we got to take a knockout out the top, and I just knock that guy out. And then I'll take my set screw connector and I'll just hand tighten it at first, stick my linements in there, pull it around nice and tight. Now, here's the difference. Connector, coupling. Connector connects the pipe to the box. The coupling couples the two pieces of pipe together. Coupling, connector. All right, so now I'm going to take one out of the other side. Again, just hand tight and then send it home. You want to be careful not to over tighten them because the lock ring, the piece that goes on the bottom here, it can snap. So it's got to be snug so it just bites in there. It's not going to move. And now we can bend our pieces. We're 10 inches up from the box, but that's to the center. So when we measure our 90, we're going to measure to the top. So we'll add like 1/2 inch. Now, I drilled some pretty big holes with this 1.25 bit. For 1/2-inch conduit, you could probably, the smallest you'd want to use for the drill bit would be like a 1 inch, but typically you'll get like 1 1/8 inch. I put this together really fast today to shoot this video, so I found 1.25 inch, and we'll just have to go back and strap our pipes when we're done. Okay, so how do we use the bender? This is what's going to make all the magic happen. So for 1/2-inch conduit with a standard bender, it's a standard radius bender, it's 5 inches from this arrow. So I'll color that for you so you can see that. And if you don't know or you forget, all the information is right here. So stubs, 5 inches to arrow. Here's the arrow. So now what do we do? Well, if we want to go 11, we gotta do some math. And what do we get? We get 6. So we're gonna make a mark, 6. And what I basically did here is you could do it the other way too. Let's say you want to make the 11-inch 90. Put a mark at 11 inches. Come back down here, measure 5 up, make your mark. From here, throw it on the bender. So I usually will grab the piece like this, I'll grab the bender like that, take my piece, line it up on our arrow, and then I'll set it on the ground. And from there, just make sure you're nice and straight. When you pull up, make sure that it's nice and straight, and it's at a 90-degree angle. And then we're going to put it through the wall. But before we do that, we're going to cut it, because we don't want to struggle. So I'm going to take my pipe, put my thumb here, and I just kind of make it in the middle of the first stud space. You could probably jam this through the wall, but it'll end up all crooked and could twist the box. So how do you cut this stuff? So I like to just use a standard hacksaw. You can get a bandsaw or some other fancy saw to cut this, but a hacksaw will do just as fine. It's probably the cheapest way to go about it. And then I'll take my ladder, and if you haven't seen this type of ladder before, it's really sweet. It's called the lean safe. You pull these 2 handles in the middle, and then it'll fold up like that. Give it a swing, and then it locks back down like that. However, if you wanted to go all the way up into the roof, you pull the levers again, the ladder folds down like this, and it goes up into the wall. To save space, I'm going to leave it like this and show you how I cut the pipe. So the piece that I want to keep, I kind of like to hold that in my hand, and then I'll put it on the ladder like this. This side of the pipe touch the ladder here, and the back side touch over here, and it kind of locks it in place. Then I take the saw, and cut my piece. The next thing you're going to do is just take a pair of channel locks. Now these look probably different than the ones you see in the store. The reason that is the handles, like the rubber, I just take a razor blade and I cut that stuff off, because I'll show you why. Put it on like the 3rd or 2nd notch, and all you're doing is you're letting it touch that pipe, and you're running the teeth across it to give it a nice clean smooth edge. It's called reaming the pipe. And then stick the other side in there like this, turn them, nice and clean. This way it won't cut the wires. The other side's factory edge, but sometimes it's a little gnarly, so I like to give it a little cleanup. And then this goes right through the wall. Uh-oh. We got a little trouble. Sometimes when giving these tutorial videos, I don't make the right math. There's 2 things you can do here. One, you got to drill another hole, because when you're in the 2nd knockout, it's a little tight to the hole here. So I'm going to drill what's called a half hole in there, just a little bit to relieve the pressure. And when I'm half in there, you're going to see like a figure 8 and some notches. So then you just lift the drill bit up, and then that'll create a nice mortise for the pipe to sit in. And then it's still a little tight. And what I realize is, and here's another way. So I wasn't thinking, and I went the wrong way with the math. It should have been 10. Should have taken the ½ inch away. So we'll get it right on the next time. But I made a new mark, and all I did is I hung the pipe in there, kind of lined it up with my box and made a mark. Now we'll cut this one. We'll get this one in there. So this is a little harder because you don't have much to grip onto. So you got to hold it firm with your hand over here, and then you just kind of cut that off. Ream it up. Send her through our hole. Nice. Okay. So now we got that. Tighten our connector down. I like to just, as I'm putting the pieces in, to connect the connector to the box. That way you don't forget. One of the things about this type of piping is the grounding of all of this is in the pipe itself. So you want to make sure that those connections are nice and tight. All right, so now what do we got here? So here's how we would do this. We're going to make our mark on our piece of pipe again. Remember, we were off a little bit, so how much were we off? Where's our little piece? Okay, so we were off on our measurement by 3/4 of an inch. Okay, so last time I measured 6 inches, so this time I'm going to measure 5 1/4. And then we'll fix that. That'll fix that problem. Put my bender on my arrow, give it a kick. Make sure we're nice and straight, which we are. This is one of those examples of that gnarly factory edge, so I'm going to clean this up real good. So that's nice and good. Do that. Before I put it in the hole, I'm going to just take the pipe and set it across the studs. I'm going to line up my 2 pipes so they're nice and level. I'm going to get real close to that edge, make ourselves a mark. This way you don't have to pull out a tape measure or do any kind of crazy math, like measuring from the back of the connector to the stud, then measuring back and all that. You just kind of set it in there, line it up, give yourself a mark. And then we're going to cut this up. Slide the coupling on the pipe, slide the pipe through the wall, slide the pipe into the coupling. Now you're going to think that you're off on your measurement because it's not going to fit like this. It's off, so just give it a little push. Nice and in there. And then that's that. Nice and tight here. So now that's how you get some pipe through the wall. But let's say you got to go up and you got some lights or something, or you got to take these outlets to fan box or wherever they got to go. So I created a little bit of a situation for us in a couple of different ways. So the first conundrum we have here is if I want to take this pipe up, and let's say this knockout is already filled, right? So I want to come out this one. And again, this is just pretend. This one's filled, so we're not going to use that one. Or we're going to pretend like it's filled. And we got to go out that one. And we got to go up. And to change the pipes around would be a ton of work. So how do you cross over this pipe? Well, a couple of things. You want to create an offset. See, because when we go like this, you can't get that pipe in there. We don't want to go this way because then we'll be out of the wall. So how do we make this happen? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to do that. So what I like to do is I'll line this up with the back of the fitting or whatever, and I see that it's pretty much nice and straight. Like it's going to go up nice and straight if it's right there. So we know that we got to go this much over. So how much is that? Let's figure it out. Well, the conduit outside to outside is 3/4. Inside to inside is 1/2 inch. So we need to offset this pipe 3/4 of an inch. So we'll make it a little heavy, we'll go 1 inch. Make it easy. First step in this process. Because this is going to be a tight offset, what I like to do is I'll stand the bender up like this. I'll line this up with the outside, just make it flush. And then do you see on the side of this bender, we've got these goofy lines. Now what these are is, these are the degree marks. So because we want to make this kind of tight, I'm going to go to a 22 degree mark. I'm just going to take my bender, I'm going to wedge it like under the floor, and I'll put my foot on there, and then I'll just push down on this back end, and I'll push until that conduit, the back side of it, is lined up with that line, and they're parallel to each other. And it doesn't have to be perfect, but both bends should be the same. So that's the first one. Now, so I'll take my bender and I'll put it on the ground like this, and then I'll take my tape measure, and since we're going backside to backside, I will then line it up like this. Now again, this is a tight offset, but I wanted to show you how this is done in a pickle. Everyone can do a box offset, but how do you get yourself out of a nasty situation? So then I'm going to come back over here, and I'm going to go the opposite way. And I'm going to pull that kind of tight so that that radius is in the crux of that. And then I'm going to push this pipe down till we get to 30. Or no, 22, I'm sorry, 22. We're going to do a big offset in a minute, but I wanted to give you I want to give you the preview. So because I went to the edge of the bender, this is a little oval, so just kind of eyeball it, put it back into this. If you're spinning these around in here and they're not getting caught or bumping around, then you know it's pretty well round. So take the other side, clean that up. And you just put your piece in. Now I like this way because it does a couple of things for us. It keeps the pipes in line, so when you're drilling up through the plate, your holes are the same. Let's say you got to get from one side of the joist to the other side of the joist. Here's how I do that. Really fast. Take my pipe. I'm going to send this sucker down to the 45. I'll go 30 on this. Now 30 is a little over straight up. So 22 is straight up and down. 45 is the next mark. It's a little bit more like this. So I like to go 45. Make sure that's parallel with the ground, like it is. Take that off. And then this is a fast way to do this. I'm not recommending that you run conduit like this, but I'm just showing you a fast way to get the job done. So I put this pipe up here, nice and flush with our joist bay. You know, make sure that that end's nice and flush. And then I come over here and I mark it right where it's gonna intersect. So I mark that intersection. Come back over here. Now you see these two divots right here? They're on every bender. I'm talking with a calf in my mouth. Hold on one second. See these two divots? They're on every bender. Line your mark up with those divots. Give yourself a look over. Make sure that that pipe is nice and straight. Looking down there. You don't want it like this or like this. What I'll do is I'll first start it off this way and I'll just put a push on it. And then I'll pull up until that piece is level. Or all I gotta do is look at my bender and match my 45s. Pretty straight. All right. And this fits. Oh, I'm not straight enough. It gets really sensitive. So you gotta just make sure that your marks are exactly the same. And just check that a little more. You can just look at it and you can see. So like if I put a coupling on here and I put a piece of pipe, you can really see what I'm talking about. It's a little droopy because of the coupling, but you get the idea. All right, there. One side to the other. Nice and straight. Fast way to do an offset. Just like that. And now let's say you gotta come over to that side of the wall. So you would measure this if you wanted to make it look really nice, and you're at 10.5. So then you measure from your mark. If we were to measure, say, 11, give this a slice. That's why marking the pipes is so important, because you can use the points as reference later if you wanted to do something different. Like in this case, we're going to add another pipe that goes to the other side now. There. I don't know what else I can show you today. I went through a lot of different kinds of things, but the big thing was I wanted to show you how to do some basic bends, and also a couple of different ways to do some offsets and things like this. One trick I will leave you with is a kick. So sometimes you're in a situation where you've made a 90 on the piece, right? So let's say we got a 90 on here. We'll just make any 90. And where you got to bring the pipe through and where it comes out is different. Now, instead of doing an offset, you just do a simple kick. So all you do is another bend on this side. But what I like to do is I'll put the bender back a little bit. And you got to figure out which side it's going to go. But the easiest way is just put it like this. Make sure this is level with the ground. And then let's say we got to go like 5 inches. So you'll take your tape measure, you put it down like this, and then you just pull this until you're at 5 inches. Now I'm trying to show you the tape and do this at the same time, so it's a little tricky. But yeah, you would just go like that. And now you have a 5-inch kick on your piece. So maybe you're gonna run like this into the wall, or maybe you gotta come down like that and run across, or maybe when you get up through the wall, you gotta come over, or maybe you're coming through the wall this way and you gotta come over to your box, so you kick it, drop it. There's tons of different ways to use this as a simple way to get things done. Well, look, I hope you guys enjoy this. I know I enjoy doing this type of work, so leave your comments in the section below and I'll be happy to answer them. Make more videos about this kind of stuff and teach you guys everything I know about this. So, thanks.